I was riveted by the 60 Minutes interview of job czar General Electric CEO Jeff Immelt. It's no accident this pioneering show has lasted so long. They leave no stone unturned. The segment started with Mr. Immelt addressing a gathering of GE managers. The mood is dark. People are pissed. Why not try to do better? Immelt tells his audience. With insight that deep, is it any wonder that President Obama chose him to lead the country's job council? When the interview commenced, Leslie Stahl led by indicating that we need to create 300,000 new jobs a month just to get back to pre-recession levels. To that, Mr. Immelt said the following. I think, Leslie, there needs to be a sense of national urgency around jobs. If you just look at how many hours a day do Republicans spend on job creation? Do Democrats spend on job creation? Does the White House? It's nowhere close to 100%. We're not spending enough time on jobs. Of course! Congress and the White House aren't spending all their time thinking about jobs. Forget about Social Security. Forget about Medicare. And you know what? We're safe enough. We don't have to worry about national security. And that budget deficit? We got plenty of time to pay that back. Washington should be completely consumed by our jobs dilemma. Personally, I think Mr. Immelt lacks an understanding of Washington. He fails to realize that our political leaders have always been 100% focused on jobs. Their own. Stahl wasted no time hitting Immelt with a barrage of tough questions. So, Jeff, over the past decade, large corporations like GE have actually reduced their domestic workforce while expanding employment internationally. Given this, do you believe that the Fortune 500 can be part of the solution? What? Ms. Stahl didn't ask that question? Oh, that's right. That was me screaming at the TV, imploring her to make that logical query. I don't fault Mr. Immelt for moving operations overseas. Given the nature of GE's business, which generates 60% of its revenue internationally, that's what he must do. As Mr. Immelt correctly stated, it is the world we live in today. It's where we have to be successful. Regardless, Ms. Stahl should have questioned him not only on GE's plans, but on his view of the most likely sources of job creation. An interesting side note. According to Mr. Immelt, since taking the helm of GE a decade ago, the percentage of overseas revenues have doubled from 30 to the current 60%. This focus on international markets makes him a logical choice to lead a think tank on domestic job creation. To Ms. Stahl's credit, she did broach the subject of corporate taxes. One of the things GE and you get hammered for is how little taxes GE pays. It's not quite zero, but it's pretty low, she said. Mr. Immelt's response. We've had an extraordinary couple of years. We wrote off $32 billion during the financial crisis. Aha! An opening. No doubt Stahl would go for the jugular with a question about GE's average tax rate during its profitable years. Or maybe something about how many tax attorneys GE employs, or how much money it spends on lobbyists to jigger the rules in its favor. Nothing? I know. 60 Minutes must be planning a follow-on segment. On taxes, Immelt did say, I think we should have basically the same tax policy that Germany, Japan, the UK, everybody else has, which is a tax rate in the mid-20s and no loopholes. Zero. Stahl's response? But I guess the big question for most people, would that create jobs? Surely with his stellar leadership of the Jobs Council, Jeff was prepared to illustrate exactly how lower corporate taxes would lead to more jobs. That's a fair debate, said Immelt. Personally, I think it's going to create jobs. There's that incredible insight. I had goosebumps. Stahl went on to discuss the potential for a tax holiday. It's a favorite of multinationals that would allow global companies to bring back overseas profits tax-free. Immelt is in favor of this strategy and believes it would lead to hiring, even though a similar tax holiday enacted in 2004 did nothing to move the needle. Commenting on the previous tax holiday, Immelt noted, when it happened last time, It didn't create jobs, so there's plenty of evidence that says I'm not right about that. Do I know how many jobs it's going to create? I don't, but it can't, intellectually, be any good to anybody to have $1.2 trillion outside the U.S. Last time it didn't spur job growth, but intellectually it makes sense. To whom? Wall Street? Corporate management? Real estate agents in the Hamptons? The interview concluded with Immelt imploring us to root for him. I want you to root for me, he says. I want you to say, win, GE. Stoll replied by asking, do you not see any reason that maybe the public doesn't hold American corporations up here? Finishing strong, Jeff closed by saying, I think this notion that it's the population of the U.S. against the big companies is just wrong. When I walk through a factory, our employees basically like us. Another excellent presidential appointment and another hard-hitting 60 Minutes interview.